Foundations, Module 15, Building Online Courses, Part 2. There's a lot to get into. Last time, we talked a lot about how to think about them, and then we talked about how to design them. This time, we'll talk about how to create them, how to deliver them, how to name them, how to price them, how to sell them, and how to use them. First of all, I want you to think about an online course as just simply a classroom. And the reason I say that is because we're teachers. And if you think about creating an online course, since online course as a phrase is used quite a bit, and there are all kinds of courses teaching how to teach courses and create courses and sell courses, then it'll be easier for you to compare what your course looks like to other courses out there. And most of those people have done 5, 10, 15, 20, maybe even more courses before. So it's not fair for you to think of your course in any kind of comparative way, especially if you're comparing it sideline to the other people that are out there in the market, instead of this just being a classroom for your seeker to learn. And to me, that removes some of the pressure, and it removes the desire to be perfect and the desire to be all polished, and it just puts you in a space of teaching. So that's what I want for you. This is the second bullet here is something that we talked about last week, and I just wanted to, or last module, I just wanted to re-presence it. If you were a paying client, what would have to be included for it to be the most valuable course you've ever taken? I want that to be your constant filter for how you do things, because so many people ask, what should I do? That's going to be my question back to you. If you ask me any form of what should I do in the context of your course, and what should I do, if we dive underneath it a little bit as a coach, what should I do has the embedded story that I'm not smart and I don't know and I can't think for myself. So I want somebody else to tell me what I should do. Now, if we even dive deeper underneath that, that's a desire that most of us humans have manifested for us to not ever be wrong. The way you don't be wrong is you don't ever make a choice. You don't ever make a decision, because then your decisions can't be wrong. And if you always ask other people to tell you what to do, then you get to blame unconsciously for the most part, but we get to hold other people responsible, therefore protecting our limiting belief that we're not smart, right? Protecting the confirmation of that from happening. And so underneath this, what should I do line of questioning quite often is a limiting belief speaking, and it's actually perpetuating disempowerment. That doesn't mean that every single question about how to do things is coming from that place. So I'm not making a broad statement across the board 100% of the time. And for most of the people, it absolutely is coming from that place. So that's what I want to check for all of you, is make sure that you're coming from this empowered place. And if you're looking for details and some guidance, that's fine. If you're looking for answers to perpetuate that you don't know what you're doing, that's not fine. Awesome. Lotta says, I want to create the course that I was missing 20 years ago. Yeah, that's another really good way to think about it, to filter it through. If you were a participant, or if you had a course when you were needing this particular content, what would have been in it? So when it comes to creating your course, I'm going to just give some suggestions, and 5 of these 6 sections are going to be very quick. One of them is going to be much longer. If you see the handout, you can tell which one that's going to be. And then if you have any questions towards the end of this module, we can open up for some questions. My suggestion is to use Zoom video platforms. The reason is because it's simple. It's a very popular platform nowadays, so most people are used to using Zoom. They know how to click the links. They know how to download. If they don't already have it downloaded, you can use it on your phone. You can call in if people don't want to be on the video. You can hide the video. you can mute, you can do all the things that you really need to do. On our end, we can record it pretty easily, and it just has pretty much everything we would want. The only thing that Zoom doesn't have, in my experience, that people might need, although not for this particular purpose in creating online courses, what Zoom doesn't have is the ability to tell you who showed up. So I can't get a report from Zoom in this version of it, just the Zoom video platform. I can't get a report from Zoom that tells me who showed up on the webinar. With other platforms, now Zoom does have a webinar component to it. I'm not sure if what I just said is available in their webinar component. It's really expensive the last time I looked at it, and I had already been using webinars in different platforms, so I haven't personally used it. The benefit of some of the more complicated systems, complicated for us as the teacher and also for the people, the benefit is we get better data. So some of the webinar systems that require people to download the app on their computer and then listen or watch from the app, the reason that's necessary is now I, as the teacher, can tell who showed up. And I can also tell how long people were on. So from a marketing standpoint, I might do a webinar, I might have 50 people register for it, I might have 20 people show up for it. I can tell which 20 people showed up. I can tell which 30 didn't. I can send an email out to the 30 that didn't with a different message than the 20 that did. I can also tell out of the 20 that only 5 of them actually saw the thing that I was selling at minute 50, because I can tell that they all fell off before then. And I can send the 15 that didn't see the pitch a different email. I can send the 5 that did see a pitch a different email. I can look at the data and realize everybody, not everybody, but most of the people started to fall off at the 37-minute mark. So then I can go back in and go, what was I talking about at the 30-minute mark or the 35-minute mark? Oh, I went on a big rant, let's say, and that's where people shut down. Or that's where I started to talk about marketing, or that's where I, shared my thoughts about parenting, or whatever the case is. So there's a lot more data that can be utilized with the complex programs. And for most people, you don't need to go there yet. So that's a little bit of an aside discussion just as it relates to video platforms. For the purpose of these courses, I've never used any of those kinds of metrics, that kind of data that I just went into, when it comes to these sorts of courses. So I don't think you need that. Zoom has, as of this point, my understanding is there's a free platform. There are some restrictions to that. You're going to have to take a look at how long you want your videos and how many people can be on and all that kind of stuff. But for the most part, free is going to be okay for the parameters that I currently know about Zoom having. And if I'm wrong about any of that stuff, then please let me know. If there are like short time limits on Zoom now or whatever, then let me know. Carrie says, is it okay to create the course I'm needing now as a first grader to a kindergartner? Yeah, I mean, that's so what you said, as a first grader to a kindergartner, I would say you're still creating the course that you needed then as a kindergartner. Now that might've been, not 20 years ago, like Lotta was talking about, it might've been 6 months ago, but it's still what you needed then. You should not be teaching what you need now. If you're taking 5th grade math, you better not be teaching 5th grade math, because you're not a leader in that situation with that content. But as long as it's a half a step behind you and you feel like you've cleared yourself and you can be in a good position to share that, then that's still in the past. So I think it still applies to what Lotta said, just a different time frame. Does GetResponse do that? GetResponse does have a lot of really good data on webinars. So yes, GetResponse has all of the marketing data that you would need with their webinars. Cool. So Aaron says more than one person is only 40 minutes on Zoom. If that's the case, then great. Then you guys all need to look into whatever the options are that you are. I didn't do that research before this. I've had Zoom for years, so I haven't looked at what they currently have. That's my fault. If I would have thought about it, I would have done a little bit of research to give you some more suggestions. So if you guys have any of that research, or you want me to take a look at the website, you can post in the group and I can answer however I can. All right, and Lotta said it's pretty cheap. It's $10 a month, so that's great. All right, the second reason to use Zoom is so that you can be on video, because people expect video more nowadays. We just live in a YouTube generation, and the more that you can use video, the better. You can see what I do with these modules is pretty much always slide capture. So this is still a video. There are still things moving on the screen. You're not seeing my face, although I can include that in the video if I wanted to. I don't for these calls, and for pretty much all my courses, I don't. But it still gives you the video component that people like, and you showing up on camera a little bit before and a little bit after, that satisfies their desire to see your face and see your movements and build trust that way, etc. With Zoom, it's super easy to get recordings. You'll get a video recording, you'll get an audio recording. When you record it to the cloud, you can get a couple different versions of the video recording where you can see everybody on the screen, or you can just see the speaker, or I think there might be one other thing. And then the audio recording. And so you've got several different versions, and that's awesome so that you can use the recordings, right? Not only for archives in the class, but maybe as products later. I'll get into that a little bit later. And it'll demand faster learning from you, which is great, because that's part of the purpose here, is how can you learn the lessons as quickly as possible that you need to learn to fulfill your purpose. If you have a purpose that you don't currently have the body for, then the next question should be, how quickly can I get the body for it? And you will not get the body quickly while protecting against the things you're afraid of at the same time, because the things you're afraid of are the reason you don't have the body for it, right? So you got to confront that stuff and learn as quickly as you can. So that's the technical creation of the course. As it relates to, the platform that I suggest you use. And if there's another reason, because of your seeker or because of something you're more familiar with, that you do something else, that's totally fine. That's just my suggestion if you don't have an overwhelming reason to do something different. As far as delivering the course, that's pretty simple. My suggestion is what I do. I've done, almost 20 courses, as I shared in the last module. I've optimized, according to my perspective, the best way to deliver the course from my end, the best way to consume the course from their end, or in this case, from your end. And it has gone through so many iterations. Some of it is because of changes in Facebook or other online platforms, or changes in my own processes and combining things down. So several years ago, I used to have things all over the place. I would have a separate website for our archives, and then I would have things in the Facebook group. And even before that, I didn't even have a Facebook group with the events and the files and all the things that I do now. So I want you to understand that this is what I think is a fairly clean structure. Took a lot of courses to optimize. So just my advice, again, unless there's overwhelming reason not to, is just do what I do. You got the emails, you got a Facebook group, you got handouts with fill in the blanks, which maximizes, I don't know if it maximizes, but it optimizes learning when people see the blanks, and it increases intrigue, and it causes them to write stuff that actually helps consumption of the information. It helps retention of the information. Obviously, you got to give people archives nowadays. Q&A calls mixed in with the content modules. I've been doing that for probably the last 6 or 7 courses, and it's amazing how much better that makes everything go. And I now pretty much all the time do varying days and times. In this course, there are 3 different times. And that the reason is because we have a global audience now. And so we've got people in Europe and people in Australia and people in all the different time zones. And if you just give people a single day and a time, you know, this course is on Mondays at 7 p.m. If there's somebody who checks the time conversion and 7 p.m. your time is 3 a.m. their time, it gives them a reason to say no. So we always want to remove as many reasons to say no. And if we give people different options, so in my time zone, this call is at 9 a.m. We have another call at 1 p.m. and then we have another call at, I think, 4 p.m. So it's beginning, middle, and end of my business day. And for everybody else around the globe, one of those is going to work. So everybody can, unless there's like some freak collision of schedules, everybody's going to be able to make one of those times live. And so what I've found when I started doing that is I have a lot less questions and a lot less objections for people that go, I don't know if I can do it because I can never make those times. I have a standing appointment on Mondays at 7 p.m. and I'd rather listen to the calls live. So when I was fielding a lot of those questions several years ago, I paid attention to the question and one of the objections. And then the next course, I was answering those questions with, well, there's always going to be at least one of the times that's going to work for you. So you'll be able to catch at least some of the calls live. And then those objections stopped. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that nobody has the objections anymore. And some people might not like the varying days and times. I can just tell you, I haven't heard the objections anymore. So for me, it seems like it has worked. And that's what I would suggest you do. Again, unless there's an overwhelming reason to do it a different way.